Oh, hello, and welcome to Ardente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
Wiki, D stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And tonight we have Rising Boreal, the Vampire Murders. So, Rising Boreal, the Vampire Murders is by Audrey, uppercase O, lowercase W, uppercase O, or it's like that OO face, or cat face, like cat face. It's on creepypasta.wiki. My co-hosts and even our listeners may remember Audrey as the author of the story Anywhere Else. Basically, yes. I decided to take a dive into their other stories to see what they had to offer for reading material. So, but I suppose I'll dive into the rundown. So Nair is a fledgling reporter at the closing end of his newspaper company's existence, and gets the chance to look into the strange killings of the vampire murders in Indiana, which are a series of murders that aren't being covered otherwise by any major media, but seem pretty big. Nair is also dealing with seasonal depression, among other things. There is an interweaving narrative throughout the story explaining the tragic childhood and family background from Nair and his father's homosexuality. Nair, getting back to the present, or the story at hand, Nair arrives in the town of Rising Boreal, where the latest dead body was found, drained of blood, with suspicious markings on their neck. And this town is very strange indeed. With like weird acting, even alien-looking plants growing in the dead of winter, and other oddities among the locals. And even some of the buildings kind of give off a weird aura. While looking into the local newspaper, after talking to the locals, comes up dead, he finds nothing but more dead ends, save for a report of a satanic cult in the 80s that popped up in the town. He realizes he's being watched by strange people and attempts to simply flee the town. However, finds a parade of cloaked figures moving throughout the woods in the outskirts of town, and so decides to investigate that, completely ignoring his flee to escape. Out of, I guess, journalistic curiosity.
Pretty much.
And so finds himself following this caravan of cloaked figures as they proceed toward a cave, the same cave that was mentioned in the article about the satanic cult. And it's here he infiltrates their ranks by bashing a person's head in and stealing their cloak, and discovers a priest and cult who are feeding on the blood of a woman in the cave as part of a ceremony to dark gods. It's then that Nair's father, who left his family when Nair was a boy, after being found out to be gay, arrives up front on the stage, or the main platform of this cult, and also appears to be the person who Nair bludgeoned over the head and clearly killed, or at least I don't know. It seemed like he'd killed the guy when he knocked him over the head with a rock. And even the the head wound is visible, but he seems unaffected. As he laps up the blood with a forked snake tongue. So Nair's father appears to also be the lover of the high priest here. The priest comes forward after Nair is found out, and changes into an undescribable creature that sends Nair into a unconscious fugue state, by the mere sight. They then either drag him away or he ran out of the cave back to his hotel room, but in the process saw that some of the strange plants in the center of town were blooming and giving off a weird light, and there's a lot more of the town suddenly gave off more of its true nature, maybe with like dimensional visions. Anyway, Nair wakes up in the hotel he had just fled from previously, and that he had booked a couple of days prior. And we then cut away to sometime later, and Nair has left the town and isolated himself from everyone he knows and loves because he's coming to grips with the fact that he may be more than human, much like how his father and even the cultists seem to be. And that side of his lineage is more welcoming to him than his human side. That's basically where we're left at the end. I don't know if I did that justice, but like I think that's about the gist of it.
Yeah, sounds about right to me.
Okay. Did I capture the confusion of the tail end of the story as it spiraled into like weirdness?
Wasn't really confusing, but okay.
I'm not lying. I had to actually read this story twice because the first time I read it, I was like, "What did I just read?" And then it wasn't until the second reading I was like, "Oh, okay, I get it all now." But like, I think it might have also been because I was like taking notes while I was reading, and like I was in a weird headspace, and I started like compartmentalizing separate parts of the story. So it was just like, what the hell? Like I wasn't able to like for some reason connect like things together.
Yeah.
Like I missed like when I read the second time around, I had to like I caught some things at the beginning. It's like, oh, that makes sense now that I've read the rest of the story, kind of thing. But I didn't get that when I read it the first time. So, I guess that might be a good segue to everyone tolerates the Grammar Inquisitions at this point, because I've got a couple. There's a handful that I found. So here's the quote for the first one. Yet it was all business as usual, with this dime a dozen community paper spitting out its usual garbled of tame local interest stories and obituaries. So I think you just need to get rid of the D in garbled. So it's just like its usual garble of tame local interest stories and obituaries.
Sure.
That works.
Yeah, it just because the way it says the way it originally reads is like its usual garbled of,
or maybe it's like garbled
stories.
Mess of tame, like
maybe
either be garble or garbled something of tame.
Yeah.
Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, because like garble could work, but like or garbled mess or something.
Yeah.
Because garbled is almost like the way that is. It is like a descriptor, not a noun. It's an adverb at that point, or it's a verb at that point.
Yes.
And then my next one here. At the end of it, the rope, I was freed of professional chains. So I kept getting caught up over this. So I tried to fix the sentence here. So it's like, at the end of the rope, I was freed of professional chains. Or maybe it's supposed to be at the end of its rope, I was freed of professional chains. Just because like it's at the end of the rope of his company, he was freed of the professional chains. Like sort of a metaphor.
Sure.
That works.
What I did was
Cool.
I removed the whole rope thing because I was just confused with it as well.
Yeah, it was being poetic. Like he's being very poetic throughout the story. So he's like using allegory or metaphor.
Very slightly simplified it and added a comma, so it has better pacing. At the end of it, comma, I was freed of professional chains so I could pursue an obsession of mine. And also combined it with the second one.
Yeah, and I also added a comma at the end of rope.
So yours is at the end of it, the rope, comma.
No. So the way I would have done it was like either at the end of its rope, comma, I was freed of professional chains, or at the end of the rope, comma, I was freed of professional chains.
Yes.
Also, I do like your take as well, because it also works. But yeah, moving right along. It was a quiet drive through hours, fields, with the occasional strip mall to interrupt it. So I think it's supposed to be like it was a quiet drive through hours of fields with the occasional strip mall to interrupt it.
Really? For me,
why?
The ridiculousness is like the doubling up on the fields.
Well,
it should double up on time, not locations. Like the way I rewrote it is it was a quiet drive through hours and hours of. Sorry, I'm saying hours weird. It was a quiet drive through hours and hours of fields with the occasional strip mall to interrupt it.
You know what? I think that would work as well. I just kind of got caught up in the fact that like he's driving through the Midwest, like Ohio or Indiana, and as somebody who has driven hours and hours through fields and fields of flat land and with the occasional strip mall to break up the monotony and also have an existential crisis on the way, especially when your car's air conditioning breaks down before you even hit the border in the heat of August. No, I this sentence spoke to me. Like
no.
Driving a quiet drive through hours of fields and fields and fields and fields and fields and fields with the occasional strip mall to break it up.
But yeah, for me it was just weird building up on the locations. Meanwhile, the same thing is happening all the time. The thing that is changing is the amount of hours that they're spending driving through fields. So personally, I doubled up on hours. But that's just the way
honestly, that's probably the better way to go.
And you don't even really need to double up. You just do through hours of fields with the occasional strip mall.
Yeah, but when you double up on it, then it makes it doubles up on how long it's taking. It's putting emphasis on it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's emphasizing.
Like, no, you don't have to. You could just say hours of fields, yes, but if you want to put emphasis on how freaking long it's taking, then I do it one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll move on to the next one here. Lost in thought, and with a busted car radio, I dwelled existentially onto my life. I think you just need to get rid of that "to" at the end there. It's like I dwelled existentially on my life, not onto my life.
Probably.
Also, see my previous statement about driving through Ohio / Indiana and just contemplating your life as your air conditioner breaks down and you're.
You really haven't gotten over that, have you?
No,
you brought it up twice already.
Quite frankly, I'm surprised Mikey hasn't gotten over it. He was also on that trip.
I'm more traumatized by the white van.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, the white van was fucking like that. That was not like that was an instantaneous trauma. That wasn't like a hours of prolonged like developing trauma.
Right.
We had an incident where like some asshole in Indianapolis like cut us off, and we almost got into a car accident.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, they went across like 4 lanes of highway to get in front of us.
Oh wow!
Like right, and like they basically went right past, like right over the that like we were turning into an exit, I think, and they went right over that like that line where you're not supposed to really go at that point, like that wedge of that wedge line.
Like they were on the other side of the highway, and they're like, "Oh shit, I need to get off now."
yeah, literally, just like, like, it was not a fun time. Anyway, back to the grammar position. As terrifying as this is, and as much the victims deserve justice, that is not what brought me to investigate these tragedies. So I think it should be as terrifying as this was, and as much as the victims deserve justice. Just because, like, it says like as terrifying as this is, and as much the victims deserve justice. And I was like, I felt like it needed to be was rather than is, because it as terrifying as the cases were, like the cases happened already, so it's like they're not happening in real time.
It's a tense issue.
Yeah. Yeah, we all know about my tense issues.
Yeah, you're very tense.
Yeah.
But then also like and as much the victims deserve justice. I think as much as the victims deserve justice.
Mm-hmm.
And then another tense issue, speaking of, normally such deaths would be front page news across the country, with true crime documentaries already being greenlight. And to that, I think it needs to be with true crime documentaries already being greenlit.
Yes.
And then my next one here. Both in flower pots and on the grass, pine trees, a sight only up in northern states, dotted the woods and greasy eras amidst the town itself. Is it supposed to maybe say greener areas rather than greasy eras? Because I couldn't find. Did you guys have an issue with this?
I don't even remember greasy eras.
Yeah, I tried looking up greasy eras to see if it was like a term for something, and I came up with nothing.
Probably autocomplete for grassy areas.
Yes, that's that's probably what it is. Yeah, grassy areas.
Although greener areas typo-kneesed right over that because I read that as grassy areas.
Yeah. Also, I'd say grassy areas or even greener areas, because greener areas are that's usually what you call a park in a town, inside of a city. Yep. So
both work, just not greasy eras.
Yeah, greasy eras. I was like, what is this? What kind of regional dialect is this?
See, greasy eras is a chain of greasy
restaurant. Spoons?
Yeah, greasy spoons around town. Yeah.
Yeah, greasy eras. It's 1920s, 1950s aesthetic. Greasy spoons, in the 1920s, ragamuffin.
No, each one around town is a different era.
Oh my god,
that'd be awesome.
That would be.
Can we just
goddamn
make that a thing now?
Yeah, greasy era, and then son of greasy era.
No, they're all greasy eras. And then it just has a colon after it with the time, with the year.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Goddamn.
I guess we're gonna start
all right.
a chain of restaurants now.
Yeah, a chain of greasy spoons.
Yep.
We'll end up on You Gotta Eat Here and Dives, Diners, and Dashes, or what?
Sure.
Flavortown guy does. Anyway, moving on. So this one's pretty simple. It's just buildings, both homes and businesses alike were made from picturesque blah 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 blah. So it just needs that comma at the beginning.
I have a question. It says, and the whitest flattened woods. Shouldn't that be flattest or flattened woods?
Yeah, that's true. I didn't actually. I just kind of took that at face value because I knew exactly what it meant. It's that wood paneling that you see on old buildings and stuff like that. Almost but I know. Yeah, I didn't even think of is that. I just kind of, for some reason, took that at face value as that's how it's called. What it's called. They don't call it flattened. But yeah, you're probably right. It should probably be the whitest flattened woods.
I don't even know what they're trying to say with that.
I mean, yeah. To me, it's referencing the white picket fence sort of kind of house, or the house that has in Newfoundland they're called salt houses.
It's not talking about a house here. It's made of that stuff, but it's saying it's made of bricks, dark brown logs, and whatever this whitest flattened woods is.
Okay, see, this is what I thought. I kind of saw it as we're it said the buildings were made of the brightest brick or red brick the brightest red brick. So red brick buildings. And then dark brown logs, which are kind of the cabiny sort of look.
Yeah.
And then the whitest flattened wood. I figure it was that wood, that white wood paneling that on the side of houses.
Okay, it's probably flattest then because it's saying it's saying the picturesque red bricks, they're the best bricks. Although dark brown logs doesn't have a adjective to make it sound awesome. Yeah, okay, I get it.
Darkest brown. Yeah. But yeah, no, you're probably right. It should also have it should probably be a different naming or a different wording of it. Maybe the whitest flattened wood. I don't know.
Just the term flattened wood seems weird to me. Like it should just be saying like the straightest wood, like it's like perfectly done, like it's specifically being flat is weird.
Yeah.
'Cause, yeah, it's flat because it's like cut wood, but
Almost, or like the whitest wood paneling, maybe. I don't know. I can't come up with what that type of house is. So
well, it's a wood sided
wood
house,
siding, yeah.
like mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pure white.
Yeah,
Like, it
that's
hurts
what it
your
is. Siding.
eyes.
That's what it's called. It's called siding.
Yeah.
Yeah, wood siding. Yeah, it honestly should be the whitest wood siding.
Yeah.
One could picture.
Work.
Yeah. But moving on. The uncanniness, this weirdness would have to wait. So I think maybe replace the comma there, to an ellipsis. So it's like this uncanniness, ... This weirdness would have to wait, just to kind of emphasize like his like kind of pausing.
Yes.
Because when I was reading it, that's definitely what that invoked with me. So.
Uh-huh.
And then another one here. This is something I have an example, but like there's a lot of it in the story. So this would become a running theme during the visit, and that's in regards to like the shop owner being very dodgy about like his questions about the vampire murders and stuff, and then just being showed the door. And then we get a horizontal line that separates to the next thing. Turned away by storekeepers to storekeeper, and by passerby to passerby, I was already in a rut so soon into my trip. So there are times in the story when there's a lot of use of the separation line to separate like scenes or sections of the story. And for the family backstory stuff, like that's in the past that he's recollecting, that works for me. And even like at the end, and I think at the beginning when he's like introducing like the story that he's about to tell, and then at the end when like after like he's gone through all this, and now he's like it's sometime like much later, and he's like isolated himself after the events of the story. That's fine too to have those separating lines. However, a lot of the times during the story, I found myself like, why did you use a separation line when you could just separate it by just a paragraph break? Like I felt like there was a couple of times throughout the story, like while he's in the events, that he's just like switching. Yes, he's switching a scene, but it's like it didn't really need a separation line to separate it. Like I felt like a paragraph, the paragraph break that you're already using would suffice for to separate the scenes.
I liked them. I didn't have a problem with any of them.
Oh, really? Okay, that's fair.
Well,
but yeah.
Yeah, I can see your issue with this one because it just continues exactly where it picked off. But I actually have an issue with the storekeeper to storekeeper stuff. So.
Okay. Well, what is it?
Well, I didn't like the storekeeper to storekeeper, so I personally changed it to turned away by storekeeper after storekeeper. And passerby after passerby, just to show that he's going
from place to place,
to place rather than
or place after place. To help strengthen your comment. Here.
I was going to say it's weird that you went back to 2 there, almost like that's.
Well, yeah, like almost like it could go either way, but yeah. But at the same time, I also get what you mean, Mike. Like it definitely works with after. I think for storekeeper after storekeeper, that one fits better than to storekeeper to storekeeper, and then by passerby to passerby, like that one's fine the way it is. I think.
Yeah, it'd be good to have one on each, just so it's a little varied.
Yeah. And I'll move on to my next one here. Perking myself with a latte, I decided yapping away was pointless and decided to make my way from that cafe to the town library. So I had to add a word in here just because it seemed weird. So perking myself up with a latte.
I mean,
not just perking myself with a latte. Like it seemed like it was missing something to me.
Yeah, I have this one in my notes too. But I actually added a comma after latte.
Yeah, that would work as well.
Yep.
and then there's also sort of a double decide going on. So I rewrote it to, I decided yapping away was pointless and made my way from the cafe to the town library.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, rather than just like, they mostly come at night, mostly. Yeah, that repetition. Common issue with writing, honestly. Next one here. On my way, however, something caught my eye. Right in the middle of the town center was this huge unbloomed flower, roughly the size of a pickup, with vines intertwined with nearly every in place and thing. So that's all one sentence. So it's a little run on, but it's not too bad. But also, my kind of the thing that I caught while at the tail end of this sentence was maybe remove the "and" at the end. So like, with vines intertwined with nearly every in place thing, because that's exactly what it does. Like, and it's like later described that like the vines have like tangled around like all the benches, the lampposts, the gazebo, stuff like that. Those are all in place things within around the park or the center of town.
I'd almost suggest saying with every place and thing, just remove "in."
That would work as well. Yeah, that was initially my go-to, but then I went with this one. Mm-hmm. So it seems like you're picking up all the things that I'm like my gut goes to with, and I decide against it.
I went with intertwined with everything nearby.
That works too.
Okay, sure. Yeah, that works too.
Because the every in place and thing just doesn't sound right.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so all of us having different corrections for it.
Yeah. And then the next thing, which is like right after, I think, as if I was witnessing the behavior of an animal belonging deep at the sea or mills into the jungle. So I think that needs to be miles into the jungle.
Yep, missing an E. I got that too.
I just want to say, so far you've been reading this paragraph sentence by sentence.
Well, I'm going to continue.
Okay, fine.
None of the shoppers and families walking by seemed to even care.
Just one.
Okay, did
sentence.
I? Okay, well, yeah, but there's nothing wrong with that sentence.
I know, but it's fine. Go ahead.
I know what you mean. But yeah, so it may not be able to catch it, but so walking by, like buy, is like to buy something, not walking by as in going past something.
I mean, they are shoppers. And
they are, but they're walking by.
You don't know how the stores work here. They could be like drive-thrus, but they're walk-bys. It's like it's on a treadmill, and it's like, "Hey, what do you want?" It's like, I'll take this. I'll take a TV and 32-inch. It's like, okay, I'll walk ahead, and then some guy delivers it up ahead where you have to walk to.
Yeah, I'll move on.
Yeah, it's a walk-by.
So the next thing I have.
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I not allowed to be critically silly sometimes?
You are. It's fine.
Okay, it doesn't sound fine.
It's cool.
This is fine.
That all good fortunate was a fluke, or all a part of a cruel joke. My life right now. But yeah, for that sentence, yeah, that all good fortunate was a fluke. I think it should be that all good fortune was a fluke.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then my next one here, to add insult to injury, there was no follow-up from the paper that covered it from the rest of its lifespan. So I think it like for the rest of its lifespan, not from the rest of its lifespan.
Sure. I mean, yours is more betterer. I'll say that.
Yeah, it sounds weird when I read it like from the paper that covered it from the rest of its life. Like it feels like it should be for the rest of its life.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Okay. And my next one here, while logging off from the session, fear overtook me. Okay, so I kind of added in the comma there, but there needs to be there's no comma in that sentence. So it's supposed to be, I think it should be, while logging off from my session, comma, fear overtook me.
Yeah, because otherwise it's while logging off from my session, fear overtook me.
Yeah, just like no stop, no break whatsoever. Don't stop, can't stop.
Logging off for my session fear overtook me.
Yeah,
Session
exactly.
fear.
For my session fear. Yeah. And moving on to the next one here. The moment was mercifully interrupted by a librarian telling me it's time to go in that classic annoyed tone. I nodded, then looked back to see the space near the shelves empty once again. So the issue here, again, it's not really obvious when I say it, but there's a space between tone and the period, and then there's no space between the period and the I. So like annoyed tone, period, I nodded. So
Space,
like the
I
space
nodded.
is in the wrong spot. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I also feel like maybe like there could be a comma, so it's like I nodded, comma, then looked back to see the space near the shelves empty once again.
Yep.
Just to add a little bit extra. And my next one here. For once, in what must have been forever, my compulsion towards this godless place began. That common sense gut punched me. What?
Yeah, what?
Okay, hang on. Maybe this is how it's supposed to be. For once, comma, in what must have been forever, comma, my revulsion towards this godless place began as my common sense gut punched me.
It's not
Maybe?
revulsion,
Like,
it's compulsion, because like
is it?
he's Nair, he or she, doesn't matter. Nair,
it is a he. It is a he.
okay, Nair has been compelled to go here. To go to this godless place.
True. Okay, so for the first time in a long, or for once in what must have been forever, my compulsion towards this godless place began. But then, why does his common sense gut punch him? Like,
well, it didn't...
I get what that's referencing to, but like usually common sense is like you get the fuck out of here. Like, so that's what that's. Yeah.
Yeah, the part that's confusing is it's saying compulsion towards this godless place began like now, or it must have been.
That's
forever.
why I thought it was revulsion, because it made more sense to me.
Let me just read to myself real quick. For once in what must have been forever, my compulsion towards this godless place began. That
Yeah, like, so it seems like to me, like what he's trying to what's trying to be conveyed here is that like, because they knew they knew about the weirdness of this town. Like they got that weird vibe from this town the entire since the minute they got in here.
I got it.
Okay, yeah.
For once it must have been forever since my compulsion towards this godless place began. Comma, common sense gut punched me.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That there. Because like otherwise, like like the only thing that made sense for me was like he's suddenly repelled by this place, because that's why he's being gut punched by his common sense.
I understand.
To get the fuck out of here.
I understand now why you swapped it to revulsion. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Woo! We got there.
Hooray!
Moving on. Didn't even bother to get my money back for that day. Nope. Fuck. Hang on. It's hard trying to read something that's not
I know,
right. Not right.
You do it correctly in your own head. Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't even bother to get my money back for the days paid for that would be used, or that would be unused. I think that in that sentence needs to be a what? So like, didn't even bother to get my money back for the days paid for what would be unused.
Even that sounds weird.
It like I notice how I'm not going to edit out. I edit out like when I flub through like sentences and stuff like that in our podcast. I'm going to actually keep my flubs here because like you understand my difficulty then reading it, trying to read it.
Yeah. Well, if you did back for the days paid for, comma, that would be unused because the days are already paid for.
Or just
that would also get rid of that would be.
Or just simplify it
and
to,
add
like,
a comma.
didn't even bother to get my money back. Wait, I just had it in my head, then I forgot it as I was saying it.
I hate that.
Didn't even bother to get my, like, what he's trying to say is I didn't even bother to get my money back for the days that I have paid.
Like he's already paid for a couple of days to be here, and he's just bouncing and like not getting his money back. So,
well, you could probably get rid of the whole unused stuff and just say I didn't bother getting my money back for the extra days that I'd paid for.
Yes.
Yeah,
that works.
Or super simplify this. I didn't even bother to get my money back from the hotel. Bam, done.
Yeah, but for what?
You can surmise that it's for the other days that he
Are you suggesting that I read between the lines?
Yes.
Fuck
God
you.
damn it. Yeah. All right, we'll move on. Because I think we did, like, in that mess, in that jumble, I think we did come to the conclusion of like how to fix that sentence. So the next one here, those were not far away. Those unseen devils. Sorry, hang on. So like, those were not far away. Period. Those unseen devils calling to me in their mystery and danger. Period. A mere minute later, I was hunched down in a bush. Period. So I kind of I rewrote this series of sentences. Like I combined them together a little bit because I was a little confused because like right before those were not far away, he referenced finally finding a man-made trail. So initially I thought that's what he was referencing, and then I thought I realized, I guess, that he was referencing the unseen devils in the next sentence. So I kind of combined a bunch of those sentences, these small sentences together. Mm-hmm. So this is what I got. They were not far away, comma, those unseen devils calling to me in their mystery and danger, period. Only a mere minute later, I was hunched down in a bush behind the group, period. So I added a little bit extra on the last sentence just to like have it flow better, or like just like read better, like so you know what the situation is. So he's not just like I'm hunched down in a bush in the middle of the woods, nowhere near the group.
No, I needed to take a poop really badly.
Yeah, exactly. Like I just because a couple of these short sentences, I found myself like kind of in the seat of gamer sometimes when like you're like, why is this so short? Like why is this? Why did you break this up? And like, yeah. So, but I'll move on to the next thing. This one's super easy, barely an inconvenience.
Yeah.
My great-great-grandfather frequented an underground gay bar shortly after the Great Depression lifted. So, again, really hard to like try and like make the error here, but it's the for the Great Depression is missing an E. So it's just like I tried to do the TH sound. Yeah.
Great Depression.
After Great Depression lifted. Yeah. But anyway, moving on to the next thing. Then haphazardly lobotomized, doomed to spend the remaining decades of his life in a home. So I feel like there needs to be a comma and. So like, then haphazardly lobotomized, comma, and doom. It could either be.
So shouldn't it be haphazardly?
Sorry, hang on. No. Sorry, hang on. So I feel like it should just have a comma between lobotomized and doomed. So it's like then. Yeah. Also, I wasn't sure about haphazard.
I'm pretty sure it's haphazard.
Is it haphazard?
That's the way I've
always... Is haphazard even a word? Hang on. I'm curious now if even haphazard is even a word. Yeah.
I've always heard it haphazard. Yeah.
Same.
Lacking any obvious principle or organization, haphazard. One word, no dash.
Okay, so. And haphazard just doesn't exist?
I don't know.
Okay, well, that's what I was asking. So.
Well, I was looking up the thing I thought was right.
Because, like, it might be different. It might be different, like, dialect. Like, again, like, there might be, like, a regional thing.
Based on a quick Google, not really.
What does haphazard mean? Haphazard adjective. Yeah, it just goes. Yeah, it just goes up to haphazard. So yeah, no, it is actually haphazard. Okay. Yeah, so haphazard. So then haphazardly lobotomized, comma, doomed to spend the remaining decades of his life in a home. That's really what it needs there. It's just a comma and then haphazard be switched to haphazard, I suppose.
And I hate the English language. Like, I'm living in a home right now. It's a house. This is my home.
I
know. I'm saying I hate.
At the same time, you do know what the story's referencing.
I do, of course. I just hate the English language. That's all.
Yeah, you hate how no word should have more than one meaning.
Yeah. Buffalo.
I know. I agree with you, but I don't.
Yeah.
like, get over it.
It's a bit. I can't get over it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Anyway, moving on to the next thing. No harm or no fool, it seemed. The mad priest gave a laugh before placing a warm romantic kiss on my father's lips. So I think I kind of had to fix the beginning of the sentence. So it's like, so in quotations, no harm, comma, no foul, it seems, period, end quote. I think might be the better fit for this. So it's like, because it sounds like the priest is saying that as he's laughing and then like plants a kiss on the father.
Oh yeah, maybe he did say it. Unless he's just
no harm,
thinking
no foul,
that no. He also might be thinking, like Nair might be thinking, no harm, no foul, it seemed. Like, even though he hit him.
Hang on, is that in italics?
Don't you dare be in italics.
I'm checking right now.
Don't you freaking dare.
Hang on, here we go.
It's not.
Nope, it isn't.
Okay, good. I was going to be very angry.
No. Yeah, no, it's just, there's no, yeah, I feel like if it had been like a thought or something like that, and not the priest talking, it would have had like a comma after seemed, at the very least. So I that's why I interpreted it as like the mad priest laughing that out, like just saying that.
Or it's meant to be no harm, no foul, period. It seemed the mad priest gave a laugh before placing a blah, 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 blah.
Maybe, yeah.
Although the is capitalized, so I think that's meant to be the start of a sentence.
Yeah, because I feel like the it seemed is still part of the no harm, no foul. It seemed, because like it's like, oh well, I bashed my father's head in, but he's still alive and seems fine with it. So, also, and then moving on to the next part here, the priest stepped forward from his lover and faced the crowd. Pretty sure that's supposed to say the priest stepped forward, not the priest.
No, now we know the name of this alien species.
Ah, yes, the priest.
Yeah. Tell me that doesn't sound like an alien species name.
It does. It does sound like an alien species name. Honestly, like that's going to be my new name for a certain type of alien vampire in the Lovecraft universe, which I'll get back. I'll get back to that in my actual thoughts, actually. So, next thing here, Lord help us all. I can barely describe what happened next. I really feel like there needs to be a comma to break up this sentence a little bit. So it's like, Lord help us all, comma, I can barely describe what happened next. Or even an ellipses. Like, Lord help us all, ... I can barely describe what happened next.
Yeah, because the way you read it now, it could be, Lord help us all, I can barely describe what happened next.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then the next thing here, that fauna from a different world, a different time, and a different dimension. So, given the subject of like what he's seeing, he's referencing the flower at the center of town that's like blooming. So technically, it should be a flora, that flora from a different world. But I mean, it's also from a different dimension apparently. So maybe flowers or maybe flora and fauna kind of mixed together at that point.
Know that.
I know, yeah. He wouldn't, yeah. I think it's just a simple hiccup of like flora versus fauna.
Or it could be like the plant from Little Shop of Horrors.
Feed me, Seymour.
Awesome.
It does match description-wise.
And you know what? The author of the story is part of their name is Audrey, which was the name of the monster, the name of the giant plant monster in Little Shop of Horrors.
Well, there you go. Confirmed.
Audrey 12 or Audrey 5, I think, or something.
It's like
I can never get the Roman numeral right for that plant monster. Anyway, moving on. I can either allow myself to wither away into oblivion for the sake of some undeserving affinity to mankind, or I can take from the frozen olive branch offered to me by gods of aeons past so that I may live in a new reality. All one word, all one sentence.
Oh, one word, geez. It's not even spaced out.
Oh god, that would suck. No, all one sentence. So a little run on to me. Also, I think you need to remove the after take. So it's like, or I can take from the frozen olive branch offered to me by gods of Aeon past.
Also, should olive be capitalized? It is.
That
I don't know why it is.
So the way I did is like, or I can take the olive from the frozen olive branch.
Maybe no, because like an olive branch is like a peace offering. Like
But there could be an olive on it.
I suppose it could, but I think what this is trying to get at is like, or I could take from the frozen olive branch offered to me by the gods, like because he was given a peace offering.
It's metaphorical.
Sort of exactly, that's honestly what it is. Like, yeah, there's a lot of poetry in this story that you have to work through. Yeah. Not saying you're wrong, Mikey, but you're wrong.
We're all wrong sometimes.
What do you have against olives?
They're disgusting.
I don't know. I love Olive Garden because when you're there, you're family.
Oh God, don't you start. Vin Diesel's not here.
You know what's funny? I wasn't even fucking meant to do that, but as soon as I said, like, the way I said it, as soon as I heard myself say it, I was like, man, I really did just roll into Dom there. I'm surprised they haven't done like it. Olive Garden hasn't like contacted Vin Diesel to do an Olive Garden.
Oh my god!
Olive Garden, get on that! You're slacking off with your branding.
Yeah, you're gonna at Olive Garden when you post this.
I am so going to at them at this because like I gotta think that there's like a Venn diagram of like Fast and the Furious fans and Olive Garden attendees. There's got to be like an in between of that, like because like yeah, it just seems like there'd be there'd definitely be an intersection between those two groups. Anyway, that's the end of my Grammar Inquisition and my Olive Garden promotional pitch.
Yep.
So, Mikey, the E stands for evil.
All right, I have to prefix this with the story pissed me off early on, so I didn't do a lot of Grammar Inquisition in the early section. So most of the stuff is when I came back to it afterward and continued reading. So, Cultist actually got a bunch of them. So
yay! I hope I would have, given how long my Grammar Inquisition went on for.
Yeah. Well, I think there was another one that I was like, oh, Cultist will catch that, and then I don't think you caught it, so I'm like,
I haven't gone yet. So maybe I
but
did.
It's fine. Yeah, maybe. All right. So, here is the first one here. Benches, support beams, walls, lampposts, and all one could imagine was latched onto. So, the confusion there is that, for me, was what's latched onto them. So, it's the vine latched onto.
Yeah. Like, I understood what it meant, but I get where you're coming from. Like, it doesn't say what's there or what's latching on.
Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't want to read through subtext, I see.
Yes.
Is that your new thing?
Giving you shit for subtext? Yes.
And then my next one is a critically silly Grammar Inquisition.
Oh boy.
These freaks had unnaturally pale skins and unblinking eyes that made my spine want to pop out of my body. So when it said skin, I thought that maybe they were fur and pelt faders.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what?
Like they're selling
I didn't quite hear that.
Like from animals.
Oh, okay. Like, okay. Wow.
Because, I mean, to just change that, they had a naturally pale skin.
Yeah. Does it really say skins?
Yes.
Yeah.
does.
Okay. Yeah. That definitely. Yeah. You don't need to pluralize that when you're talking about a group of people with pale skin. Yeah.
All right. And then that's the end of that grammar inquisition. So I have a conjunction junction.
Ooh. And next stop, conjunction junction. Doot, doot.
Hold on 1 second. Zoom in. Why are you not zooming in?
Hey,
Train's really late today. Hey, gamer.
All right. Here we go. Because of you, I'm now left in fractured ruin. But this was a joyous time for me, as selfish as it is to admit. It was a quiet drive through hours, fields and fields, with the occasional strip mall to interrupt it. And to make matters even more disturbing, this didn't seem to be done by any knife or medical device, because those gruesome killings had been on the down low. But all the while, there was almost something far more idealistic and quaint about all this. It was all downhill for her mental state from there. But they existed, and they spilt blood. It could have been nothing. But those lights painted too much of an unspeakably sinister picture for me. But the fanged fiends of this evil religion blocked all exits with their increasingly unnatural vitality, and with a nod communicated that it was time. Its strangeness blessing the falling snow, like one might see inside the painting of a gentle madman. It was the best route, since even if I tried my damnedest, there was no way in hell I was going to be close with another human being ever again. And all I did was scratch the surface about what is waiting for us in the wintry darkness, and what familiar faces may already be frolicking in a garden of weirdness. Finn.
Wow. I have to commend you, Mikey. You perfectly encapsulated back into me my feeling when reading the story the first time and being really confused because I was like compartmentalizing like every other section of the story.
Yeah.
So I was like, because like you're just like going because when I first read this, I was like, it to me I don't know, again, maybe it was because I was in a weird headspace, but like when I read it and when I was taking notes, I was like, this story just goes places with like no rhyme or reason. And it wasn't until the second reading of the story that I realized that was just me like compartmentalizing for my note taking. And it's seeming like that because when I read the second time, it flowed way better. But like the first time, I was like, what? We're here now. What's now? We're in this scene. What the hell's going on? Thanks. You've rendered that confusion back onto me again.
You're welcome.
That being said, that string of sentences that you listed, that you bring up to highlight all the sentences in the story that start with words they shouldn't, like its, ands, or buts, because there was better words. The ones that you listed actually give a lot of context to each other, oddly enough. Like, it was starting to not give context, but then, like, as soon as I was confused about something, the next sentence gave context to it. There was enough of them to do so.
It was still confusing,
Yeah,
though. But that is the point. All right, and I suppose it's Gamer's turn.
My go. Using my own expenses, the boss let me off to the crossroads of America, period. All to look into a series of murders that few even acknowledge. Personally, I would... it needs a comma, and you can combine that with ellipses as well, in my opinion. So it would be using my own expenses, comma, the boss let me off to the crossroads of America, ellipses, all to look into a series of murders that even few acknowledge, period. I didn't like how the sentence is continuing the first sentence, even though like it's perioded out. So either semicolon that because it's related to the previous one, or combine them with a comma or ellipses or something.
Yeah. Also, just have to bring this up because as soon as you referenced this sentence, I was like, what is the Crossroads of America? Like, what is that a reference to? And I'm like, yeah, apparently it's a nickname for Indianapolis. Which, given what that, like, if you look at like a map, like a Google map of Indianapolis, yeah, that looks like a Crossroads of America. Like, it's just kind of, it's got like literally a moat or two of highway that wraps right around the entire thing, and then there's just just tons of highways and roads that just intersect this city. So,
oh wow,
it's the Crossroads, or it's the what's the it's the roundabout of America, basically, because like again, like there's this highway that wraps around that's like a circle around the entire city, and with all these highways and roads that kind of connect to it and come off of it and exit off of it.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah,
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was it's really neat to go there it used to be really fun to go there every summer for the dark times.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, yeah.
Yes. So my next one. Autopsy showed these poor bastards' blood were drained from their bodies, almost perfectly preserved, despite estimated times of deaths ranging from weeks to months before then. So in my opinion, the preservation needs to be moved onto the bodies, not where it's currently describing the blood drain. Because when I read it, I thought it was saying that the blood was drained almost perfectly, not that the bodies were almost perfectly preserved, which is what I think it is.
Yeah.
So I kept reading it over and over as the blood. Also, I kept reading it as the blood. Sorry, blood was drained from their bodies. And that's part of the reason that this didn't work, where it's saying blood were drained from their bodies. Like, just me putting was instead of were in there added to the confusion.
Yeah.
But regardless, it can all be fixed with a single comma.
It's amazing how that could fix things.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Autopsy showed that these poor bastards' blood were drained, comma, and their bodies almost perfectly preserved, despite estimated times of death ranging from weeks to months before then.
Gotcha.
My next one. Checked into a hotel before daily routines began. Period, space, period. There's a double period there for some reason?
Yeah. That's the one I left because I was like, it wasn't until
you left
second.
It? It's like, it's fine.
I don't know why I left it, but I was like, I figured one of you guys would catch it, and I was like, because I was going to come back to it, but then like I caught the second one. It's like, somebody else will catch that one.
Wow. I think I'm picking up the slack then.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's got to.
Mm-hmm. As the sun went up and I got a clear view at the landscape before me, I was wordless at how different this place was before the surrounding areas, and just in general how eccentric the aura it gave. So run on.
Oh. Yeah, damn.
One sentence, no punctuation. And so I put 3 commas in there, actually, to fix the pacing. Mm-hmm. As the sun went up, I got a clear view at the landscape before me, comma. I was wordless at how different this place was from the surrounding areas and, comma, just in general, comma, how eccentric of an aura it gave. Because, like, the just in general part is I don't know the word for that. Either way, it's like a little cutout, so it has to be cut out like that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Or you could just remove the just in general. So it would be, I was wordless at how different this place was from the surrounding areas and how eccentric of an aura it gave.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Simplifies it even further. Mm-hmm. This one. Now, all there is fading feelings of warmth. I swapped that to now all there is are fading feelings of warmth.
Yeah.
So you're not doubling down on is.
Also, yeah, the way it is, like, fading feelings, not fading feeling.
Yeah, because it's talking about something plural, so it should be plural.
Yeah.
Oh, it just needs a comma?
No, The second is turns to an R.
But if you have a comma, so now all there is, comma, is fading feelings of warmth.
But they're plural.
Oh, I think
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
However, it's feelings. If it was saying a fading feeling of warmth, then yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So either
Gotcha.
comma is a fading feeling of warmth, or comma are fading feelings of warmth. Either way, the comma helps.
Yeah.
That's true. Yep.
So thank you. Thank you for your input, Mikey.
So aggressive.
Yeah.
On my way, however, something caught my eye, comma, right in the middle of the town center was this huge unbloomed flower, comma, blah, 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 blah. So the pacing of that, the start of that is weird because it needs a comma and a break because it's a long sentence after that I blawed through. So my correction is, on my way, however, comma, something caught my eye, period. Then capital, right in the middle of the town, blah, 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 blah.
Well, do you even need the however?
I'm sorry?
Do you even need the however? So, on my way, comma, something caught my eye.
I mean, that works too. Both are fine.
But Gamer,
how-
isn't it supposed to, isn't that make it a short sentence? Sorry.
I will kill you. You will die by my hand. By this power glove. I will choke the life out of you.
I'm just getting back at you for being critically silly the last time.
That's fine.
You're still
I
dead.
accept it, but you will die.
I mean, I've already accepted that.
Yeah,
Review cultist died as he lived, pissing off Gamer and Yellow.
yeah, that sounds about right. Okay, moving on.
Yeah.
This one is a short sentence that I wanted to combine into the next one, actually, because it's too short.
Oh my god.
The peculiarities of this were disturbing, period. As if I was witnessing the behavior of an animal belonging deep in the sea or mills into the jungle. So also it's a front as, which doesn't work. So I just combined that with ellipses. So the peculiarities of this were disturbing, ellipses, as if I was witnessing the behavior of an animal, blah, 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 blah.
I do not sound like that. Blah 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 blah. Sorry, it's that's actually appropriate for because the stories about the vampire murders and Dracula. Anyway,
yes, indeed. The screams of that poor girl echoed through my mind, crying, pleading, and praying to God. He didn't hear her. So, when was there a girl screaming? And who is this he that didn't hear her?
Okay, so really? Okay.
Yes, really.
So
I didn't catch it.
The girl is the one being vampirized in the cave.
I understand that.
That's what he heard. And then she's crying out to God and some of that. And the he didn't hear her was God.
Oh, okay. That part is fine. However, the screams of why can't I say that? Poor girl. It wasn't referenced before this. Like, it wasn't described that as he was crouching in the bush taking a deuce, he was hearing like the sounds of screaming in the cave or nothing. It's just all of a sudden it's referenced.
So it's because the story's being told to us after the fact. So like he knows about that girl. But I do agree. I do think that like maybe it could be fixed a little bit with like the screams of a poor girl echoed through my mind. Or no. Yeah. So when he's saying like the screams of that poor girl echoed through my mind, I feel like that's either like he's referencing it after the fact, like as he's telling the story to whoever, or it's like he's recollecting it. So like it could either be fine as is, or like change that to be an A. So it's like of a poor girl echoed through my mind.
I would agree with you. However, I mean, yes, a poor girl works regardless. The whole story is being told in the moment. Like, yes, it happened in the past, but he's going over everything that happens to him as it happens. And yet, at this pivotal moment, like the most important moment in the whole damn thing, when he actually finds them, there's almost no set dressing to this whole scene.
Yeah.
It's just, he's in a bush. There's dudes there. Sorry, there's one dude there, actually, without even mentioning that the other one's left. And then all of a sudden he teleports behind him and holds X on him. Like, it's glossed over, even though it's such a pivotal scene. And I think that's weird.
That's fair. Maybe that was also one of the reasons why I was like, the story, like when I first read the story, it was just felt like parts of it were just happening, like things just happened, like, with no segue. Maybe that's where that effect was coming from. But like when I read it the second time, it felt fine. But
because you had the context of what happened later on.
Yeah, maybe that was it. Yeah,
for sure. Anyways, I will continue.
Okay.
After praising some deities of old I can't come up with the words.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, hang on.
Comma there for pacing.
Where is that? Oh, of old Okay, I was like, I thought old was like the he was like some like typo or something like that. I didn't realize there needed like a comma.
Yeah, just literally a comma. It's a pacing issue. After praising some deities of old, comma, I can't come up with words. Blah 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 blah.
Okay, I need to also add this one, just because we're referencing like how like the commas and stuff of that. Did anybody else fall over and just also because the paragraph's staring at me in the face right now. I watched a bearded man in a blue robe sucking the life out of this woman through those horrific teeth. Period. Right until there was none left. So I definitely read that as like until he had no teeth left. And like like a split second I was like, oh, he probably means the life of the girl, not his teeth. But it's like
yeah, maybe the teeth and the blood should be flipped around in the previous sentence.
Yeah, just like sucking or like or it's like
using
sucking
his
with those
sharp teeth to blah blah blah.
Yeah, like sucking with those horrible teeth the life of this woman. Right until there was none left.
Yep, that works.
Yep. Or even just reference it because, like, at no point does he say that like he's sucking the blood out. He's just saying the life force or the life out of her. And it's like maybe it's like right until there was no blood left. Like maybe that would fix it as well. But anyways, I digress. Sorry.
It's fine. I will continue. It's another pacing issue. I don't know if I ran past it while running away from the cavern or if I saw it while being carried by those unholy holy men, but I know I saw it somewhere before I woke up in my hotel room the following day.
Sorry? Cavern?
Cavern. Sorry.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, I thought it was. I honestly, legitimately thought it was like I'd missed like another thing where it was like a cave in something like that.
No. Running away from the cavern. I said it again. Running away from the cavern or.
Yeah, that's fine.
Either way, pacing issue. It needs 2 commas.
Yes.
I don't know if I ran past it while running away from the cavern, or if I saw it while being carried by those unholy holy men. But I know I saw it sometime before I woke up in the hotel room the following day. Period.
Gotcha. Yep, that works.
Because it's not a cavern or. It's not a cavern or, and it's not unholy men but. I don't want to think about unholy holy men but. That's not why we're here.
No.
And that was the end of my grammar in yellow.
Okay. All right. So on to actual thoughts. We finally got here.
We did it.
So I'm gonna start with the poem caption by Walt Whitman. Whoever you are, holding me now in hand. I had to look up this poem piece, like to know what it was about. And I think I get the meaning here, especially by the end. I think like the poem itself is about cosmic acceptance or like cosmic love kind of thing. And I kind of get that by the end, like, but again, this is one of those cases where like I really don't like when someone uses maybe I'm just getting tired of when somebody uses a poem at the start of their story, or like a quote at the top of their story from like another piece of work, to try and it always comes off to me as like kind of pretentious, but like also a little bit like too like your reader's either going to get that or not going to get it or not going to like it. So it's like, I don't know. And then also the image that accompanies this story, I don't know why it's there. Like the image, it's odd to me, like placed for the story. Like it kind of makes sense because of the wintry, sort of woodsy aesthetic, and I guess that figure that's at the top by the moon is supposed to be a vampire. But it's really misleading once you finish the story.
It's misleading once you start the story, in my opinion, because I saw the image. I'm like, okay, that's the area we're in, and I start reading it, and it's talking about like open fields of grass and stuff like that. I'm like, where?
Yeah, like,
it looks like it's in a barren snow wasteland.
Yeah, and honestly, like looking at this image, I did not think like modern day like Indiana or like modern day like Chicago, which is what it opens up to, like winters in Chicago.
There's a castle in the back left, I think.
Is it? Oh, no, I see a church in the background with a cross.
So
no,
I can far left, top left corner.
I can kind of see a
structure there.
Yeah, I can kind of see a tower, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, like with the cabin and like the again like the vampire figure on the ridge and stuff like that. To me, that like I was going into this expecting a like medieval like fantasy, like dark fantasy story, or like somewhere in like old Europe, not in America.
Yeah, me too.
So it really threw me off for a loop, like by the end of it, and like I guess like good job on blowing up expectations because it really does deceive you by like during the story, like because you're going in thinking that's going to be about this, and then it's actually this one thing, and that's kind of this story in a nutshell. Like the vampire murders, you went in thinking it was like based on like the description of the vampire murders. Okay, yeah, we're dealing with vampires and stuff, and we're kind of dealing with vampires, and I'll get back to that in a second. But we're more or less talking about cosmic monsters, like alien beings and Lovecraftian horror.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, no surprise, that's the genre, or that's the category of the story, is Lovecraftian monsters and beings. So I guess it kind of fits. But like, yeah, it was really weird. Like again, I got whiplash from the poem and the story, or and the image. In contrast to the rest of the story. So
yeah, part of the way down is where I really got my whiplash. I might as well bring it up now with this quote: "Lilies, roses, and even sunflowers thriving at every corner, both in flower pots and on the grass."
and then you're like,
I'm like, I'm sorry, but wasn't this happening during the winter?
Well, but then it explains like that's what makes this town really fucked up and weird. Is that yes, it's winter everywhere else around this town.
Yeah.
But I have that in my notes.
Assume that.
Sorry.
That wasn't clear to me at all.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay.
I thought it was the springtime.
No.
Like, okay.
Yeah, it's part of the it's part of this weirdness of this town, is like things are flourishing, and I guess I'll bring it up now. Like, yeah, I read that part where it was like, a sun went up. I got a clear view of the landscape and blah blah blah. Lilies, stuff like you said. So yeah, referencing like all this weird stuff, and like even says like right afterward, like pine trees, a sight only up in northern states, dotted the woods and grassy areas amidst the town itself.
Greasy areas, actually.
Yes. All in the dead of winter, with snow and ice leaving a kiss on everything. These things had to be plastic, or I was misidentifying species. I shivered. And to that, I was going to say, how are you seeing all these plants? Is this town affected by the color in outer space? Like, where, like, it's, or like, there's some, like, it's just, for some reason, like, the environment of this town just superheated compared to the rest of the world, or the rest of the local area. Like, you should I was basically, my comment was like, you shouldn't be able to see any of this floral plant in winter, even if there's no snow on the ground, which there is in the story. There is some frost.
Yeah, but it's saying that there's big areas of grass as well where it's growing. My
But
problem with the description of all this, I think, is the fact that the information I needed was at the end of the description.
Yeah.
Saying, like, it's mentioned that it's weird at the end. Instead of being like, as I pulled into the town, this town was weird. Like, this is not right. I felt some uneasy feel about me. As I look around where everything should be covered in snow, there's giant patches of grass and flowers blooming everywhere. This isn't right. What's going on here? And then there's this giant flower in the middle. Like, it doesn't describe it in that way, which is the way I would like it personally, but that's me.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And also, I just now assume that, like, Nair here just has, like, a full-on, like, winter gear and parka and gloves and like, a toque from Chicago, and, like, everyone else is walking around in, like, jeans and t-shirts and stuff like that, like, shopping, and, like, he's the only one, like...
And since we're on this paragraph, I'm also going to mention that I also tripped up a bit with the both in flower pots and on the grass, pine trees.
So it's just a tiny flower pot with a huge tree sitting in it.
Yeah, because you misread it, but yeah, I get what you mean though. It's actually almost like that. Maybe that period after, like, at every corner, comma, both in flower pots and on the grass, period, not a period there.
Yeah,
because I get what you mean now. Goddamn, pine trees.
I mean, if that's the case, fine. It would add to the weirdness, I guess.
But yeah. Sorry. I'm gonna press on if you don't mind. Find my notes. Here we go. I did like scroll back up. So the first thing here. I've been changed, haven't I? You changed me, haven't you? All thanks to you. So this is one of the cases where, like, rereading the story, I realized something at the beginning that I didn't realize at the beginning from my first reading. So I think, like, it's referencing, like, Nair is addressing somebody at the beginning of the story, and then it kind of goes in, and I think Nair is addressing his father, like, as they write this story's contents down, because, like, it's because of his father that he's now dreading that, like, he's going to become an alien creature like his father and like those cultists. Sort of in a similar vein to, like, a Lovecraft story where, like, the guy goes to Innsmouth and then realizes that he has relatives from Innsmouth that left there, and so, like, thanks to them, like, he's going to turn into a fishman. But I completely gapped on, like, I didn't even, like, I totally forgot about this section of, like, at the beginning of the story until my second read through.
Yeah.
So, but I'll move on to the next thing. Because those gruesome killings had been on the down low, there had been no news, no press conference, public releases, or even the most basic of updates from law enforcement, local or state. Even normally greedy national and corporate media were avoiding any kind of reporting on the crime. So this is a case of, like, all right, I was going into this expecting vampires.
I wonder why.
So I was like, my note is completely off the mark here, because I was like, well, based on, like, this what's happening here, based on my vampire my pop culture knowledge and stuff, my guess is that the vampires are covering up the killings from most of the major media, because of their powers of influence, or even bribing, like, their wealth as vampires. And
for Batman, their superpower is wealth.
Well, yeah, no, absolutely. Like, vampires are, like, a lot of the time, vampires are substitutes in horror stories and science fiction, even as a fill-in for the rich and powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So, but this whole part never quite gets explained to me. Like by the end, like the vampire killings are really just there, it seems, to get our narrator into this town. And like all his questions about it, like why isn't the media covering this? Why isn't any major media covering this? I'm going to be going into this conspiracy. It's never really addressed after this, like after the first part of the story.
They're not doing the murders just to get Nair in there.
No, they aren't. But it is in terms of like the story itself. That's why Nair goes to this town.
Yes.
But like it's something that is brought up at the beginning of the story and is just dropped as the other like revelations happen. So
it's not dropped. It's in my opinion more of a hot fuzz scenario because all of the town is in on it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess that makes sense. Like so that, but then like why isn't like why aren't major media and coverage like why aren't they covering these like murders that are happening across like because it's not just this town, like this town's just the latest one apparently.
Well, because nobody's talking about it. Like as soon as you ask about it, they clam up.
I guess maybe that's it. It's just like people are just clamming up about it, and so it's just shutting down. Like there's no the reason why it seems like this is a dead end thing is because these people are forcing a dead end upon it. Mm-hmm. I guess I don't know. It left me feeling that there was a plot hole here, regardless. So yeah, but I'll concede that like maybe it's just the town's shuttering it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll move on to the next thing here. So the next thing here was actually like this quote here. Not like I could have outrun my own destiny, but maybe I could have had at last a few more good years before I came face to face with bitter truths and forbidden fruits. And again, I was still in the vampire vibe. It was like, this dude's going to end up being a vampire by the end of the story, isn't he? Or like he's like been turned into a vampire. And my update to that was, no, it's a little bit more complicated than that. It's a little bit more. It's a little bit more in the blood than that.
Also, your flub there, I think, is a good correction.
Yeah. I could have had at least a few more good years rather than at last, which is what it says.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually, that's a missed grammar inquisition.
Oh, I'm claiming that as grammar in yellow. That's mine.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, you can take it. I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
And then here's my critic. Yeah, yes. And then here's my critically silly moment. In the morning, I made it to the town closest to where the last body was found. Rising Boreal. Credits.
Yeah.
Wait. So like my actual like note here was like, wait, that's the name of the town? Well, you know what? I've seen it. You know what? It does seem to be fictional. Like I did actually Google Rising Boreal, Indiana, and I did not come up with anything. So it is a fictional name for this town, for this story. And you know what? I do have to remind myself, like I did have to remind myself while I was looking this up and stuff, and like commenting about this, like Rising Boreal. That's a dumb name. I've definitely heard weirder names for real places. For example,
have you been to Dildo?
I have been to Dildo, Newfoundland.
Yeah.
My two favorite American weird name towns is Bad Axe, Michigan.
Hell yeah.
And Slick Poo, Idaho.
Slick Poo, that's awesome.
Gotta get to Slick Poo.
Wow.
I just like, and it's literally spelled. It's literally spelled the same way you'd think it is. It's SLICKPOO, like just the two words slapped together. And I mean, yeah, I don't know what the origin of that name is, but it's just like saying that. It's like Slick Poo.
Yes.
Don't want to cause a mess in Slick Poo.
We are children.
I can't even take credit for that. Like how I discovered the name Slick Poo was because a friend of mine ran a campaign where they went to the town of Slick Poo, and he just went online and looked up the silliest names of American towns for like places for his characters his players to go to.
Oh, okay.
and so that's why where he got that name. But
Nice.
so I'm just using this as an excuse for me to say Slick Boo Idaho.
You have said it a lot.
It's really fun.
It is.
But yeah, Rising Boreal, like, okay, it's actually not a bad name for a town. Now that I think about it, like, again, there's definitely weirder names of town.
Mm-hmm.
Again, see Dildo, Newfoundland. But moving on. Yeah, I already referenced my color out of space is affecting this town because why the fuck is this town got an aura of thaw around it, like an aura of bloom, where all the plants are growing despite the season. The next thing I want to cover is regarding the backstory of Nair's family and father, placed off and on throughout the story. At first, I was a little confused by these segments, but by the end, it all kind of made sense. It all kind of fell together for me, and I actually grew to really enjoy the sort of intersecting, like he's telling part of the events of the story, and then he's telling these little snippets of his like backstory and his like how his relationship with his mother and his father and like his family and stuff like that, or sort of family background. And by the end, it all kind of comes together because with the revelation of like his father is in on this cult. And him, as well as the rest of the cult, and even our Nair, like our narrator character, may be more than human as a result. Like it's all sort of coming together in a way that, like, again, the Shadow over Innsmouth sort of comes together, where the character reveals that like they had relatives they had a grandmother that was from Innsmouth, and so they can already feel like as they're getting older, they can already start feeling like the scales starting to set in and like a weird scratchiness around their neck where the gills are coming in. So, and he started having dreams of the ocean. Like it sort of reminds me of that kind of Lovecraftian storytelling. So I dug it by the end of the story, although I was a little confused initially.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of hopping back to like what the fuck's up with this town and stuff. So on my way, however, something caught my eye. Right in the middle of town center was this huge unbloomed flower, roughly the size of a pickup, with vines intertwined with nearly every in-place thing. And at this point I was like, what is up with this town? Like, screw the vampire murders. This town would make like it would make a great like news story. Like Nair just ended up in Carcosa, Indiana. Wait, or Erie, Indiana. And then I just started thinking of that old show from the 90s, Erie, Indiana, where they're just a really fucked up town. Mikey knows what I'm talking about.
Did you break out your DVD set?
I almost did. I at least took a look at it. But yeah, so it's like, this town's Carcosa, and honestly, by the end of the story, it's like I'm not too far off because like the place starts like the facade of reality, of like normal reality, starts like coming off as he's like fleeing the cave. So, but moving on, I saw them, all those lights in the woods, many torches, or many torch lights in the distance to the left of me. I parked on the side of the road, numbing myself to my own inner voices, and headed out on foot. And to this, I was just like, why? Yes, because you're in a creepypasta, and that's how things go. But there is no way you should ever go out into the woods when you see a lot of people bearing torchlights. That's just asking for trouble. Like, that's something you call the police about, or just like bug out, get the fuck out of there.
I see what you're saying, but he is a journalist.
Yeah.
Again, like he is a
that
journalist.
Means he has a death wish.
Yeah,
Yep.
basically. It's again, he's in a creepypasta. He's also a journalist. It's sort of, his numbers were up from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
But like any normal person would be like, nope. I'm bugging out. If I see lights in the woods to the left of me, it's like
he's also there to specifically find this.
I know, but it's still like
He read in the librry about a cave.
there was a satanic cult that was doing things in the
He's like,
caves in the
okay,
woods.
this is them. I gotta know for sure.
I know. I can't help but like just nope out of the situation for myself.
Like when you put yourself in their shoes, it's just like maybe it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Maybe I could just go home.
Yeah. I'm definitely siding with his inner voices. Like, get the fuck out of there. Run there, run.
Like, okay, and he runs straight towards them. It's like, no,
no, you fool. As my voice like gets like more and more distant because he's just numbing my inner voice out.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, moving on to the next thing. I started observing these. This is actually something that you brought up earlier, Gamer, about like the story. Sort of like there's parts of the story where it just sort of escalates, especially at this point, at this pivotal point where we want more details. I started observing these velvet rub. I almost said velvet gloved.
And then velvet rubbed. I heard.
I started observing these velvet-robed figures grouped together and slowly, few by few, heading inside this cave, the same cave mentioned in the article. When there was only one cultist behind this congregation, I prepped myself and firmly grasped a nearby rock. In a flash, I was standing over the body of said man, now with a bastion head. And my comment was like, well, that escalated quickly.
Yeah.
Kind of like the whole section of the story. Just kind of flies by.
And I just realized there's a grammar inquisition that we missed.
Oh, did we?
Yeah. I started observing these velvet-robbed figures.
Oh, you're right. None of us caught that until now.
Wow.
Velvet-robbed figures. So he's apprehending a criminal by bashing his brains in, but because they've robbed velvet in the town.
In regards to all that, I also said that escalated quickly, but like he doesn't even know who these people are.
No, he's
like he sure
goes straight to murder
really quickly.
Yep.
Like it could have just been like a bunch of dudes that are like going into the cave to like do some really super immersive like tabletop RPG session.
They're just LARPing Vampire the Masquerade.
Yeah.
In which case, yes, you should kill them all. I'm kidding.
Wow. How dare you?
But yeah, no, like they're just LARPing in like in this town, and like he just stumbled upon the LARPing society.
Yep. Just straight up murdered him.
Yep. Where does it say? It's like, in a flash, I was standing over the body of said man, now with a bastion head and a Nerf sword in hand.
Oh, no.
Oh shit!
A bunch of cards fell from his pocket that say lightning bolt on them.
Yeah, a bunch of tea bags with little like tags that say lightning bolt.
Oh, is that what they are?
I mean, it depends on the LARPing. From what I've heard, I'm just basing this off of like secondhand knowledge.
Yeah.
But like some people use beanbags. Sometimes it's like that. I've seen like the rolls of like party strips or party stripes, where you just like throw it in like it like or like toilet, basically like party toilet paper kind of thing.
Okay.
Or like toilet paper, or like like a tea bag with like a tag on it that says like what the spell is that you're throwing at somebody.
Yeah.
Something that you can throw at somebody that's not going to hurt them, basically. But yeah, yep, that's one LARPer down, whole bunch left. Just walks in and just starts killing all the LARPers.
Yeah. Now we know who the true monster is.
Yeah. And then I'm going to get to this part here, which is I've been kind of talking about it and teasing about it in the previous ones about like the Lovecraftian horror and stuff. There are just some sights, sensations, and universal truths that the English language simply cannot do justice for. Horrible, horrible things that can never be truly rationalized and accepted by the human brain. In what fractured pictures of time that I can pull from my subconscious, I witnessed the priest do a metamorphosis that spat in the face of Mother Nature herself. He turned into something that was far too powerful to be a mere vampire. Turned into something far too beautiful for anything that 2-bit American folklore could ever come up with. Before I lost consciousness, there was a noise emitted from my mouth. To this day, I can't tell if it was screaming or laughing. And at this point, it's like, so a Lovecraftian horror story in sheep's clothing of a vampire story. Because, yeah, that's basically what this felt like. Like, this is when the wool was pulled off. It's like, oh, this was actually a cosmic horror story rather than like a gothic vampire story. And yeah, honestly, like, this went very different than I was expecting when I started the story. Like I've been saying, like, I went in thinking vampires, and I went in and I kind of got vampires to a degree because I have a theory. I have a theory here. I think it's still vampires. It's just more of the Lovecraftian mythos vampires. Like there are 2 types of vampires in the mythos that I'm aware of, anyway. I mean, I'm sure there's more, but like the ones that like are clearly they have vampire in the name. There's the star vampires, which are basically giant, fleshy, ropey amalgams of tentacles with maws at the end of the tips, just almost like lamprey mouths at the end of the tips, and they exsanguinate, and they just basically drain people dry of blood and bodily fluids. And then there's the fire vampires, which are living motes of flame. So like basically tiny micro stars, basically, that exsanguinate and then burninate.
Do they have a big beefy arm coming out of the back there?
I mean, now they do.
Nice.
If I ever bring one into a game, it's definitely gonna have a giant beefy arm on the back of it.
I would hope so.
To punch the blood out of you, and then burn you alive.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think like the way it's described, like the way it's describing the priest as he metamorphosizes, I think he probably just transformed into a star vampire or a fire vampire. Just this grotesquely beautiful like visage of an alien life form that the human brain can't fully comprehend because it's alien and Lovecraftian and cosmic horror. Or, he metamorphosized into a sparkly vampire.
Yeah, you never know.
I don't know why that's on my brain. Weird. But getting back to the story itself, like to the vibe of the story, I got a bunch of like different. I actually was reminded of a bunch of different Lovecraft stories while reading the story. First one obviously was The Color Out of Space, with the town and the plant life acting strange and like unseasonable. Despite the weather and the winter and stuff. The festival is another Lovecraft story in which like a strange town or like strange townspeople enact this ceremony that the narrator kind of gets pulled into, and like they go down into like the depths of a cave and like fly on these strange creatures, and then the character passes out and wakes up in a hospital bed with like a few weeks later. And no one can recall what happened to him in the town. And then obviously, like I've also mentioned, The Shadow over Innsmouth, where the narrator discovering their blood tie to the strange events and the peoples of that they've encountered in the small town. Like there's a lot of tropes from those stories that I'm seeing here in this story, and I'm not saying that is a bad thing at all, because like based on like what we've read, like we've read 2 stories now by Audrey, this one and Anywhere Else was all about. I was referencing that one like it was a Shoggoth apocalypse.
So would
because
you say
it was
that
like
this
the Cronen...
story is Audrey 2?
Son of a bitch.
Because that is the number on Audrey.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Please continue.
Damn it. Yeah. But yeah, so like I don't think that's a bad thing. I honestly, this story fits as like it could fit as a homage, or again, like maybe the author just like either had inspiration from Lovecraft stories, or simply just used Lovecraftian like tropes, because there's a reason they're tropes. Like they're common. They're a common like theme throughout a lot of the cosmic horror writing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, just me being read in with by the mythos, like I was picking up a bunch of stuff that was from other stories, but I mean, that not to dissuade from this story. And honestly, this kind of felt like a neo-Lovecraftian tale rather than a more traditional Lovecraftian tale, because in more of the traditional Lovecraftian stories, the character would be, there'd be no like, they'd be like utterly terrified and like ready to kill themselves because they realize they're different, or they're like an outsider, or they're an other character, like they're this other creature, or they might turn into this other creature. In this story, we kind of get a glimmer of possible hope, like where at the end, like it's sort of like there's a bit of tragedy to it, but there's also a bit of like a glimmer of like acceptance as to what they are. And you see that more in neo-Lovecraftian horror because, well, that's being written by non-racists and assholes. So
you mean non-racists and non-assholes?
Yes, that's right.
They're non-racist because they're assholes, is what you said.
Yeah, okay. I meant the other, what you said.
Yes.
How you clarified it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, honestly, like, yeah, it felt like a really like, in terms of like the Lovecraftian horror and the neo-Lovecraftian themes, I kind of really dug that part as the story went on. And again, like my next quote here, my final kind of actual thought here is sort of tied to that. So the last message we get in the story is somewhere. So he's like they're talking about like they've isolated themselves from everyone that loves them and like knows them and stuff. Like the mail's piling up, the phones are going unanswered, sort of like that. And then we get this one message, like does he wither and die for some pitiful sake of humanity, or does he accept this olive branch from these elder gods and these alien things that are on the other side of his family? Because we get this last note: somewhere for the first time in my life, I may have a loving family, somewhere I truly belong.
And I've got nothing to say. I can't believe I didn't fall right down on my face. I was confused. Looking anywhere only to find. Yeah.
God damn it. Yeah.
I'm quoting Linkin Park, Somewhere I Belong, by the way.
Yep. Wow.
Yeah.
Good job, gamer.
I was going to bring that up, but you were in the middle of reading that. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to jump in and start singing it.
That's totally fine. That's totally fair. Yeah. So for me, this story is, going back to my notes here, this story to me is about a person whose human side of their family caused their life to be miserable and their childhood to be have issues and they have like depression and traumas as a result of that. But they have a chance because they've gone in and found out like the truth behind the other side of their family. That is more than human. And that seems to be accepting of them. Like there was it didn't seem to be any kind of maliciousness toward them in the cave, like at the site. It was rather accepting, and it's just like because of all the weirdness and the creepiness and like again the girl murder sort of put a damper on the character's like human side a little bit.
You say that, but he's already murdered or attempted murder, so he's already
that's true. Yeah. And it turned out he almost killed his, or he would have killed his dad if his dad wasn't actually some kind of like alien being that's not hindered by such mortal things.
Yes. Well, he's hindered. So, he's just not killed by it. Yeah. He's just inconvenienced by it. Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is like it's almost like the character is like at the end here is pulled between like, well, I could stick with my human side where like all this trauma has come from. Or I could hang out with I could embrace the other side of my lineage, which is this weird alien like cosmic horror thing, but they're really chill. And I kind of like that. Whereas like again, that's where the neo-Lovecraftian thing comes from. Whereas like where the character embraces the cosmic horror, they embrace that side of them rather than like are repelled by it because of like conventional norms and such. Or I kind of had this idea. I wonder if the story is also just a all one big metaphor or social commentary for coming out of the closet, or again, just accepting that kind of stuff in your life.
Are you saying that he wants to heal? He wants to feel what he thought was never real. He wants to let go of the pain he's felt so long, embrace the pain till it's gone.
Exactly.
That's literally the chorus of Somewhere.
I know. I would have honestly. I would have sung along with you, but I could not. My brain was coming blank on the lyrics.
Yeah, because
so.
we'd have to start from the beginning.
Yeah, we'd have to be in a car so we could do some karaoke. Yeah. But yeah, no. By the end of the story, especially I don't. Again, I had to read this story 2 times, but I don't think that's on the fault of this story. I think it's on the fault that much like how gamers had a couple of times where taking notes down and for our show kind of confused me or
it
ruined my initial run. Yeah, exactly. It interrupts the flow and gets me caught in the weeds of compartmentalizing all the different paragraphs together.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, by the time when I read through the whole story without any note taking at all, the second time around, I actually really enjoyed it and really liked the ending because, again, it fits that thing where it's we get this weird town, we get this weird encounter, this tragic backstory as a result of the fears of society and stuff like that from the characters, and then they come face to face with the revelation of their lineage and their body and this cosmic horror of these creatures. And at the end, rather than kill themselves or in fear or run away and lose themselves completely to the fear, they're considering embracing that, and that's a really cool idea, I think. Anyway, so, and again, I also like the idea that it might be social commentary for dealing with homosexuality and that kind of stuff. So, but that is my actual thoughts. Mikey, the E stands for evil.
All right. Well, I'm gonna start with the thing that annoyed me from the first main paragraph.
Cultists said too much good things. Time to tear it down.
Well, and this is just a personal thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the quote is, "All thanks to the crippling season affective disorder that always left me apathetic and tired whenever snowflakes fall."
Okay.
So my issue is that effective is the wrong word. It should be affective because the acronym for it is SAD.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
That's how you know what it is, because it makes you sad.
Yeah, it's the seasonal depression that happens when around this time of year during the winter and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. So that whole just having one letter wrong for.
Oh, is that what killed it for you? Like from the get go.
Yeah, from the get go. I think that's the first main paragraph we get in the story. After the poem quote.
I don't understand. How did a grammar issue ruin it that much? Just like a spelling issue?
Well, it's just because it's a disorder, right?
Yeah.
So when you're labeling any sort of disorder, spell it correctly, because I mean, the info is out there.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I mean, it is a simple error, but it is also an error that should be corrected. 100%.
Yeah. So that just irked me enough that was my first grammar inquisition and also actual thought, and then I just gave up on grammar inquisitions because that one was huge in my mind.
Okay.
Yep. To be fair, on Mikey's behalf, we did have a lot of grammar inquisition on the story.
Yeah. Okay. And then my next actual thought here actually gave me a bit of a laugh. And the quote is, the same cave mentioned in the article. So this brought me back to more of a sort of camp story trope, where you mentioned something and then, oh yeah, it was the same cave that was mentioned in the article.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I'm thinking I'm reminded of that kind of stuff. It's like, and it happened at a place just like this, at a lake just like this one. Yeah, it's that kind of motif.
All right. All right. Well, I think we already touched on this, but I'll touch on it again. I think this is where it escalated too quickly. So, when there was only one cultist behind this congregation, I prepped myself and firmly grasped a nearby rock. So, at this point, I was thinking he was sort of hiding behind a boulder type thing. Because he's sneaking up on him, right?
Yeah.
But then the very next sentence is, in a flash, I was standing over the body of said man, now with a bashed-in head.
Did you envision him like lifting the boulder up and just crushing this man?
Well, it just, the visualization of a boulder.
Yeah.
It's like, oh well, he can't lift a boulder, so then I had to visualize the scene.
Yeah, you had to reconstruct the scene.
Yeah. And then my next actual thought, which Mike had edited down, is maybe if he was white, he would have been given a slap on the wrist.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, I was like, well, not necessarily, because a gay man living post-depression is almost as bad as racism.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm sure they had it they had it worse, but it wasn't much better for white gay men in that time as well. Again, there's a reason we have the Pride Parade and stuff too now.
Yeah.
Like it's all because of like basically against that kind of bullshit in our society.
Yeah. And then the other thought is that they might have tried conversion therapy.
Yeah, and that's
well, and I actually looked that up in Canada. Do you know when it was banned?
Am I going to be really sad?
Maybe.
When?
January 7th, 2022.
Fuck.
Wait, when what was banned?
Conversion therapy in Canada.
Yeah,
I don't understand therapy. What that means.
So basically, they were using I don't know what the specifics for the therapy are, but basically they're trying to turn you straight, turn a gay person straight.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was yeah.
Yeah. So the good thing is it's banned, but
it took way too long to ban it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah. Also, I do kind of like that. As sad as it is, like that line, like it's like if he had been white, it would have gotten he might have gotten a slap on the wrist. I do kind of like it because it adds that extra detail that we weren't aware of the character, that they are not white, that they are of color, which I don't know, it just sort of it adds a little bit extra, like it adds a little bit extra to the character.
All right. Anyway, that's the end of my actual thoughts.
Okay. All right. So, Gamer, your actual thoughts.
Oh, my go. Okay. So, cultist.
Yes.
First of all, did you pick this because of your complicated, quote-unquote, love of a certain vampire IP?
I can neither confirm nor deny
Okay.
that statement.
Just saying, it's called the Vampire Murders, and things.
I may have been in the mood for for certain monster theming when I chose this one.
That's fine. All right, moving on then.
Cool.
So the poem,
Yeah.
I'll just read it, I guess. Thrusting beneath your clothing, where I may feel the throbs of your heart, or rest upon your hip, carry me with you, go forth over land and sea. For thus merely touching you is enough, is best, and thus touching you would I silently sleep and be carried eternally. So me reading that, not having any context of the story, aside from the title, I'm like, is this a talking wooden stake? It's like, it's vampires, and I say that because it's called
called
the Vampire Murders, and the first thing we get is something about being thrusted beneath clothing, feeling the throbs of the heart, or sitting at rest on your hip. It kind of sounds like a sheathed wooden stake ready to kill a vampire.
Or another kind of steak, if you know what I mean. I'm sorry.
You should be. They are delicious, though.
Yeah, that's the one I was going with.
What were you talking about?
His dick.
Oh. But yes. I was confused. That's all. Only to find that this all happened all in my mind. God damn
it. God damn you.
I can't get that out of my head now. But we'll move on. So he's talking about how the winter season brings him down and everything. How he's medication and counseling resistant. And it kind of sounds like he's reading off his character's stats in a video game. Like he's a Pokemon or something. He's like, resistant to all medication and counseling attacks. Like, Farmousey used uppers. It's not very effective. Like, wow. Yes, I made a Pokemon called Farmousey out of this. It was a pharmaceutical-based mouse Pokemon.
God damn it. Sure.
Yeah. Thanks. And then he's talking about working at a newspaper and everything. And I'm like, so this must hit a little close to home to you, Cultist, even more so than it already has.
I don't know what to talk about.
No? Okay. It hit me a bit too, honestly, because the previous night I watched Office Space. Like, it's not about a paper Office Space, but it's still like the same kind of vibe that he was kind of giving off.
Yeah.
Then I like the chunky line breaks that are being used. And they're always used at a change in direction of the story, so I approve.
Have to disagree, but we agree to disagree.
We do. We do that often. This next line. Because those gruesome killings had been on the down low, there had been no press conferences, public releases, or even most basic updates from law enforcement, local or state. Even normally greedy national and corporate media were avoiding any kind of reporting on the crime. So how did you find out about it? Because, it says later that there's some local coverage on it and online news articles, but he's not local. He's not living there. Because of how weird the crime is and how specific the place is, how did he stumble across an online news article about the weird killings in another state?
It does say that he had an obsession, that it allowed him, because the company was closing down shortly. It gave him more time to pursue his obsessions. So he might just that sort of hints that maybe he just has an obsession with weird murder cases and stuff. And he just happened upon some online, some deep web, or being a news editor, being a journalist, you do have access to a network of news outlets, big and small. So It is possible that he just like has been following these weird murders, even though they haven't been getting a whole lot of coverage.
I guess. I wish there was a line saying about this then.
It does kind of hint at it with one of the lines in the story. I gotta pull it up, see if I can find it now. At the end of the rope, I was freed of professional chains. I could pursue an obsession of mine using my own expenses, and the boss let me off to the crossroads of America, all to look for a series of murders that few even acknowledged. So yeah, it's to pursue an obsession of his. So he has been, he might just that sort of to me gives a hint that he just like that's how he came across it, was he was like looking into this kind of stuff and found these murders, has been following it. It's reading between the lines, gamer.
Don't approve. Like if his obsession is looking up weird murder cases that are unsolved, fine. But the way it's sounding is his weird obsession is this one case. And that might be the case about this case, but it might also be a case-by-case basis.
Sure.
I'm using case a whole lot on purpose. But
you are.
I don't know. It just felt weird that it's another section that I feel like there should be a little bit more like set dressing again.
Yeah.
That's all.
That's fair.
And then not like I could have outrun my own destiny, but maybe I could have at least a few more good years before I came face to face with bitter truths and forbidden fruits. I just like the rhyme of that.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to say.
That's fair. It also does like have some nice meaning by the time you finish the story.
Yes. And then there's exposition about Nair's father. Mm-hmm. It kind of seems awkwardly placed, honestly. Like it comes out of nowhere, and I'm sure, quote unquote, or hope it goes somewhere. I wrote this in the moment.
Yeah, same. Honestly, that's the same note I had.
But it just kind of feels unnatural how it just pops up out of nowhere, completely unrelated to what's going on.
But it does tie together eventually.
Yes, it does. But in the moment, it felt weird.
Yeah, I was with you. Like it started off like, why is this here? And then as it was going on, I was like, okay, there's another one. Okay. And then it got into, okay. And then the revelation, that's why all that jank was there.
I just kind of wish he was more naturally dropped. That's all. Like if he was walking around town and he sees like a father and son going to get ice cream, and he's like, oh man.
That would be really good, actually.
Yeah.
Like to try and tie it together within the now, not just like, so like sort of just like punch you with these gut punch you with these lines.
Pretty much, yeah.
with these moments, yeah. Just like a surprise gut punch.
Yep. And then regarding the giant unbloomed flower, none of the shoppers and families walking by seemed to even care, accustomed to it all. I took a deep breath and pressed on to my destination. To that, I'm like, why wouldn't you ask one of them about it?
Yeah, because at worst, you're just going to get, don't worry.
Yeah, like, we know nothing.
It's always been.
He knows nothing. They know everything. Why doesn't he at least try?
This is something that you see a lot in Lovecraft stories and like a lot of cosmic horror stuff. The no context, like no, just like a weird thing that is never explained, is part of the themes of the story. Like, you're not supposed to get it. You're not supposed to, and like the character doesn't ask anybody, doesn't get any information about it. It's sort of just like a thing that's just there, and it's to leave the reader just reeling from like the surrealness of it.
I'm fine with not knowing what it is. I just want Nair to attempt to know what it is. That's fair. That's all. Yeah. He sees it. It's weird. He asks the first person, and then, as you say, he says, "Don't worry about it." That'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
There's just no attempt. That's all.
No, yeah. And I mean, to your point, he is a journalist.
Yeah, even more so.
And I did even comment in my notes as like, this town is a news story. Fuck the vampire murders. Yep.
So yes, and then this next part. That is as far as I went before fate reared its ugly head. I saw them. All those lights in the woods, many torch lights in the distance to the left of me. So to that, I'm like, I don't know how these people have remained free and not caught if you can see them from the freaking road. Like, they're not trying to hide. Yeah. Like, I get it, Nair has to find them, but come on.
Maybe they're just figuring that like people are just going to be like me in that situation where I'm just like, oh, that's fucked up. I'm not going near that. I'm going to keep driving. I'm just going to keep driving through this fucked up town.
If everyone in the town is in on it, then fine. But depending on the size of the town, there's going to be people that are going to be like, what the hell is that? Or there's going to be people that know about the murders and call the cops or something. That would have been the smartest first thing to do, is call the cops. And then if the cops pick up the phone, they're like, don't worry about it, and then they hang up.
Yeah, exactly. That's all we need.
Yeah.
It's like... also, it seems like this entire town is infected with whatever this is, or like this entire town is just like hiding among us among our or hiding among us sort of situation. So like, I don't think anybody in this town is actually like not in the know about the situation.
Yeah. No, it just kind of felt weird how easily that happened. Like,
fair.
It should have been something like he caught like he saw a guy walking into the woods that had like a cloak over his shoulder or something. Not like he straight up sees the lights from the woods, because everyone would see that driving by. It just felt too convenient.
Well, I mean, it is on the left, so it's from Left Town.
It is. That's true.
No, it's from Left Cave.
Yeah, from Left Cave. No, from Leftwood.
Yeah, Leftwood. Yeah. Either way, it was weird. Moving on.
Yeah, fair.
And then talking about the end, without hesitation, I've cut off anyone who remotely cared about me, blah, 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 all that stuff. And he's saying, not that I was going to be close to any human again, not after what I've seen, not after finding out what I am. He says that, and I get what you were saying, Cultist, but to me, I'm like, what you are? You're human. And your father was turned into a vampire by a vampire. You don't have cravings for blood and fangs, do you? No, you're just a human.
I do think like maybe there should be a bit, and maybe you're going to say this in yours, to try and improve this, where like they maybe like, I don't know. They've started experiencing some changes. Like their tongue is now forked tongue, like
some changes. Tongue. That's a huge change.
Yeah, no, I didn't say it was a small change.
That's
I said
true.
some
That's
changes.
That's true.
Like, yeah, like some changes like that, or like again, like sort of like, because again, this sort of whole situation kind of reminded me of the Shadow over Innsmouth, where the character starts like scratching the thin markings that have started popping up on their neck where like gills would be.
Yes.
Or like they started having dreams of the ocean and hearing their grandmother who escaped Innsmouth like years ago, calling to her or calling to him to come to the sea and come into the ancient, into the deep one city beneath the tides and stuff like that. I feel like there maybe should have been like a little bit more there to like kind of give us like why do they think they're changing, or why do they think that they're no longer as human as they thought they were?
Yeah, I don't get it, because finding out what he is, but he's not that unless they show that. So, and if he's just a guy from modern society, if you know a damn thing about vampires, they're usually humans who were turned into a vampire by a vampire. Like, just because your dad gets turned into a vampire doesn't mean you are now a vampire. You're a human, and your father has been turned. That's all that is. So, if he's thinking with any sort of normal thought process in regards to the knowledge of vampires in pop culture and everything, he would just be sad that his dad is now an undead vampire.
Fair. Also, it is revealed that they aren't vampires. I mean, they are, but they're not mere vampires, because like he even straight up said, like, this thing is more powerful, more indescribable than any vampire.
Okay, but vampires aren't real.
Yeah.
So it's
That's
entirely possible that the entire vampire myth and everything they do is based off of these creatures. It's just like, if it's some weird undescribable thing, how do you make a movie about it? So they have to make it something.
It's actually quite easy. Barely an inconvenience on multiple occasions. I have whole movie shelf of how that's been done.
What I'm saying is they've
Yeah, I know.
simplified the actual creature into something more digestible for humans.
Yeah.
And that's why normal, like,
Okay,
the way that we know vampires is just, blah, I'm gonna suck your blood, even though he never says that. And then they do that and they turn vampires, but they're actually these weird creatures, and that's fine. Long story short, as far as I'm concerned, he's just a human and he's freaking out.
which perfectly valid.
Yes.
Okay.
But it needs description one way or another.
Yes.
What I'm saying.
Yeah. And I do actually kind of agree with you on that. Like he's just sort of assuming.
Yeah, he's like, my dad is this, so I must be this as well, even though it's entirely possible that I'm not.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't do those things. But that was the end of my notes.
Okay. So we move on to final thoughts. So for me, some of the cutaway parts with the thick division lines separating like paragraphs and sections bugged me because I didn't feel they would. I just felt like they were unnecessary. Because of like time frame situation, like how like some time passed between certain scenes and stuff like that. The backstory about his past and his family and the traumas he's suffered and stuff like that, and like the tragedies of his family. The way it threads through the story, it starts off kind of confusing to me when I first read, much like how Gamer brought up like previously. But it does come to fruition by the end, so I like that. I think I got where it was going by the end, but it left me surprised until like around the end. Like I thought vampires, and then I got Lovecraftian horrors. And a cult that worships dark gods, but are a really chill family. So, and again, like the character, like coming to grips with by the end, the way I interpreted it, though, like the character like freaking out, like leaving, like separating himself, thinking that he's going to turn into one of these things, and basically weighing like his options, like do I stick with my humanity, or do I embrace this other side of my family that are like way like emotionally healthier, but they're monsters. That's kind of how I interpreted it, and that's what I liked about it. So
you say like they're a surprisingly chill family. I don't know about that, because they straight up murder people, and like when he collapsed and everything, he just all of a sudden was gone. Like he wasn't in the cave anymore. It's not like they took him, put him to bed with a warm cloth on his head to wake him up and a tea, and then when he woke up, they explained to him everything.
I think that's exactly what happened to save the explanation at the end. I think like they were never antagonistic to him in that cave. They're antagonistic to their prey, the girl that they were feeding on. But even when he was found out, he thought for sure he was dead. They were very welcoming to him.
Not that we saw that.
I mean, that's the point of Lovecraft stories, is that you never see all the things.
For all we know, he just went into some weird, insane state, like not a fugue state, the like fleeing kind of state.
Yeah.
And all of them bared their fangs and chased him down, but he managed to get out of there.
At no point did we actually see that. Like I got more of the, for me personally, I got the vibe that they were like, yes, they're I'm not going to appreciate like, no, they're creepy, they're acting weird, and they're cult, like sort of in the cave. Like that's weird, but they were never. They never appeared antagonistic to the character.
They never appeared one way or the other.
That again, just my personal opinion on it, man. So, brass tacks. I will recommend it. However, there needs to be a lot of grammatical corrections and editing in the story to me. And yeah, just some of the corrections that we've also talked about throughout this discussion. So, Mikey, the E stands for evil.
All right. So, one of the things that I liked about this was the tone, or the prose, I guess, that is used throughout the story. It sort of brought you into the story.
Mhm.
Now, I did like that it was broken up with the lines, although, as Cultus pointed out, there was at least one line that didn't need to be there, because it just immediately continued from the previous section.
I kind of agree with that one, yeah.
And there's a lot of grammatical issues, as we pointed out. I liked the giant flower. That sort of adds some mystery to it, because the giant flower getting ready to bloom in winter is kind of weird. So overall, I'm going to give this a partial recommendation.
Okay. And Gamer.
For me, Nair seems to jump to conclusions a lot. There's the interjected bits about his father, while needed to the plot, were kind of out of place and forced. They weren't naturally introduced into the story like the way I personally would like it. While Nair did kind of go insane at the end, I assume, it still bothers me that he seems to think that he's a monster, even though he could just still be a human. And you say that the vampire people are all nice to him and everything, but personally, I didn't see that, because we didn't see anything. His father smiled at him, quote unquote, but he could have just been smiling in general. Because they said that we have an intruder or whatever, but they didn't do anything about it. It's not like they went, we have an intruder and it's my son, and there he is, and point him out, and then they talk to him nicely. Like, they just continued with their ceremony thing, and then I guess after that they were going to go look for the intruder or something. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that there's a lot of missed set dressing, and a lot of things that should be, in my opinion, explained a bit more because of how vague it is. That being said, the story itself was fine, but there was a lot of stuff missing that kind of put up a lot of speed bumps in front of me for me to enjoy the story. I saw it as a vampire story the whole way through. I didn't switch it over to some other type of monster, because yes, they are a vampiric kind of creature. Whether or not that is what vampires are for realsies and serious, I don't know, because we haven't found an actual vampire, and this could actually be them for all we know. But the story itself read fine, aside from the typos and stuff. But the best I can give is like a partial. I can't straight up fully recommend it because it's missing a lot, but the story it tells is simple and it works. It's just missing some.
Okay, fair. So a full recommendation, but with again, I do agree with all you guys, this thing does need to go through some editing, because there's a lot of grammar acquisitions that we went through, and two partial recommendations. So that has been this week's episode. So if you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below, where this gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. You can also send us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com. Where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, spooky things. You creep it, we'll peep it. Yeah. If you'd like to talk to us on Twitter, Mikey is at the E stands for evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at the Gamer in Yellow, but without that W at the end, because his name is very long.
Yeah, it's got to be, though.
And I'm at Review Cultist. And if you'd like to help support our show, you can donate. Go to Patreon and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tier with special episodes, early access, extra content. To our patrons that are already helping support the show, thank you guys immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. And as always, we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the authors of these stories, thank you immensely, because without your listenership, it'd be like screaming into the void. And without your authorship, without your stories that you create and share online, we really wouldn't have much of a show, because we'd have nothing to talk about. So, thank you. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
And I'm the Gamer in Yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigamortis. Sleep well.